morning. We're talking to Joe Gossen this morning in the Arizona wing of the Commemorative Air Force. Thanks for coming to this morning, Joe, and thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you
57 missions in an airplane like this, that must have been quite an experience.
Yes, it was.
And if you look right back here, that's what was your office, right?
That was my office, working spot. Yep.
And you spent how many hours typically in that office?
Depending on the mission. I generally got in there just before we got to enemy territory and stayed in there till after we got back from there. Could be anywhere from 6 to 8 hours.
6 to 8 hours. And I imagine it was pretty cold a lot, wasn't it?
64 degrees was the coldest I've ever experienced. My cheeks had frozen.
Minus 64 degrees.
Minus 64,
wow.
Yes. The oxygen mask never covered your whole face.
No.
So my cheeks got frozen.
I bet they did.
It took quite a while before I actually get any feeling back in life.
Mm-hmm.
But
and you initially were trained in the United States as a
yes, I
gunner?
went into the Air Force. I lied about my age. I went in at 17.
Oh, okay.
Like a lot of guys, and I went in as aviation cadet.
Mm-hmm.
And I got washed out because they walked us all into a theater one day and said, "Hey, thousands of you, we don't need you anymore." So I went in flying as a gunner.
Went through basic training, and where'd you do that?
Shepherd Field, Texas.
Oh, okay.
I went in in Illinois. Oh, Fort Sheridan.
Fort Sheridan, right outside of Chicago.
Yeah. Basic training, we went to gunnery school, which was in Las Vegas. When I was in Vegas, there were only two little casinos.
A little tiny town at that time.
Yes, it was. I mean, where they got the Miracle Mile out there now, it was just two little casinos and no lights. No lights at all.
What year are we talking about here?
That was in 43, I think.
43, okay.
And it was interesting training there. From there, we went to Lincoln, Nebraska, Sioux City, Iowa, then back to Lincoln, Nebraska again, and then we flew overseas to England.
Okay.
And from England, we went to Italy, where I got into the 2nd Air Force. Now, this is all kinds of different Air Forces I got to go through.
Sure.
And we flew around in Naples for a while. We finally got assigned to our BOP group, 2nd BOP group.
And was that near Naples or?
No, it was in Foggia.
Oh, Foggia. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Macedonia type area.
Okay.
It's actually the spur to the boot.
Right.
And as a identification. From there, we flew out of it was an old German fighter field. Mm-hmm. At the end of the runway, believe it or not, there were a bunch of wrecked German fighters, 109s out there. I never did scrounge out there, never had time to.
It kept you pretty busy. Do you remember your first mission?
Boy, I'd have to check my records to see which one it was. But
okay.
I'll tell you, you're excited. You're a kid.
Sure.
Oh boy, I'm in it finally.
Yeah.
And then they start shooting at you. Oh my gosh, I'm in it all right. But
was there any one mission that you remember that kind of stands out in your mind as really being? Wow.
Well, no, because they were all pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Because once you're up there when the shooting starts, well,
yep.
Come on, it's.
How did you happen to be doing so many missions? I mean, I thought the number was typically 25 or even 50.
No, the 8th Air Force did 25. Then I think they went to 30 later on. We had 50 missions when we were required to fly. Our tour when we went back to the States. I did 57 for some personal reasons.
Okay.
Because, well, we won't go into that.
Oh, that's a good story, isn't it?
Oh, it is? Well, my co-pilot borrowed some money off me, $300. Now, $300 back in the 40s was not some money. And our squadron commander didn't really care for him too well, and he kept putting him in the coffin corner. And that's kind of a bad spot. So I went up to him and asked him, I said, "Hey, how about getting him out of coffin corner? Because he owes me $300.
Maybe explain a little bit what coffin corner is.
That's the last plane way in the back of the squadron.
Okay.
You're going to get hit. You're going to get hit from the rear end. And he said, well, Joe, he said, if you want to save your $300, you better start flying with them. So I flew for about 7 more missions, and then I got to thinking, you know, it's just not worth $300 to take me up here risking it. So
No.
I quit. And the day after, the guy on my turret got killed. The next day after, another one of my turret got killed. Of course, in the ball turret, they can open it up and wash you out real easy.
Yeah.
Good hose takes you out.
Suppose.
The most confusing, not confusing, but scary part of my mission is going into that IP point.
Right.
I mean, the waist gunners sit down underneath their armored plate there. You're sitting down here where you can see it all. Your responsibility is to see the bomb drop before it hits the target or not. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've got to report this. And of course, the target, we had troubles with the Germans because they were a little bit smart. You got a bomb run in there and you got all the flak coming up. Well, the American fighters didn't go in with us.
Yeah.
They would sit out. And the Germans would come in, they say to the aircraft guys, cut it out, they'd come in and swoop in on our formation. Mm-hmm. Well, then they start shooting their anti-aircraft again.
Right.
And they had some very accurate, they had that 88 millimeter and 105 millimeter. 105 was you could always tell it because it was a white puff. The 88 was a black puff.
Black, yeah.
And you knew what was coming then. Of course, like I said, I'll go back to now where the fighters, we did get the Red Tails.
Oh, the Tuskegee guys.
Yes, sir. They came in with us right over the target.
So they stayed with you?
They stayed right with us. They weren't ones that would sit out there and wait for this to happen.
You had an opportunity earlier in this year to meet a few of those guys.
Yes, I met most of them here at the Air Force Museum. And so I was there at the premiere of their movie also.
Okay.
Because, hey, come on. It's some amusing stories about the guys there.
Sure.
And I don't know if we want to get into that either, but there's a lot of stories that...
Well, we can always take it out if you don't want it.
All right. Okay. When you're flying, boredom sets in, so we listen to the radio. Generally, we would listen to the radio being Access Sally. Mm-hmm. And she was pretty good. She'd play American music and everything else and had some amusing conversation on the radio coming over. Like when you took off and she would say, oh, hey, you guys are coming to such and such a target and we'll be waiting for you. And, hey, Joe, we know you're on the ship there and we'll try and get you. I mean, she knew our names. Espionage was something else, really. I don't
know how they did that.
Yeah. In fact, my one top turret gunner, he got a little bit excited one day, and she mentioned his name, and he sat down on the triggers, let loose, and he wiped out number 3 engine on the lead ship.
Oh, not good. Not good
One day we had a bunch of congressmen came over. They wanted to see what was going on. Uh-huh. So the Air Force loaded the skies with B-24s, fighter planes, B-17s. We're supposed to go bomb this one target in Germany. Well, doing a visual bomb we couldn't do, so we couldn't really show off what we were going to do to the congressmen because the clouds were covered. So we were coming back, and they said, hey, we got to do something to show off that we're doing something for the area, and they assigned my group to go and bomb this one town. Well, we knew where the town was, and theoretically, but that's where we had Mickey's, which was radar, which was in its infancy, was not the greatest as far as accuracy was concerned. So we got to the so-called location, we dropped down through the clouds, and we were mountains on both sides. And I've got to admit, it looked like the town that's being the secondary target. We dropped bombs on it, came back up out of the clouds, formed up again, went back to the base, got back to our base, and MPs are all over the place looking for us. We got out of our ships, they ran us all the way into the base headquarters. And, hey, you guys bombed Switzerland. Oh!
Looks pretty much like Germany.
It looked like a town that was our secondary target, I swear. Because, I mean, you've got mountains on both sides. You're going down through this valley.
Sure.
Yeah, that looks like the town. Okay. Boom.
Yeah.
And actually, I just dropped them on the marshalling yards in there, but they weren't too happy about it.
No, I don't think so.
An interesting talking about bomb loads and stuff. We used to fly fighter bait. Now this is where you load up. You didn't carry bombs. You loaded everything up in ammunition that you could spare. You hooked it all up in sequence. Of course, a ball turret you couldn't do that with. But you'd fly and gradually drop back.
All right.
Like you're having engine trouble. And you're over in enemy territory, and I mean, to them, you look like you're in
A cripple.
a cripple, a sucker. Oh boy, I'm going to come and get you. Well, you had to hold off the German fighters until the guys up above were waiting for this. As they were stationed up ahead, just up top, high altitude, waiting on us for that to happen, and then they'd come in on the fighters. In the meantime, you had to hold them off. That was fun.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Our missions, we had an experimental outfit, sort of like we got to try out, like I said, the Mickeys. There's something I'll even say.
That's the radar.
Radar.
Yeah.
Radar was brand new. And they didn't know then that being the microwave, you put a metal cup in a microwave, you know what happens.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
that's just what radar is. And the ship started catching fire with this stuff. So they would dump the radar units out, cut them loose, throw them out, because they were catching fire. They didn't know that, excuse me, the radar waves going past the metal, this would cause a sparking and set them on fire. It was an experience they had to learn. We would get a lot of stuff that was here, invented in the States, and we'd patent test it. I remember we had to go in one time and test it. I forget what it was. We had to test something, and it was over, I forget the target anyways, but we had to go in at 17,000 feet. We generally bombed at about 31,000.
Okay.
That was about the maximum she would do with a full bomb load. And I forgot, like I said, what we were trying to test out. But we had to go in and low. And of course, the kids could throw rocks at us then.
Almost.
Yeah. But
Did you have any contact at all with the Italian people when you were there? Did you?
oh yeah, we had Italian people worked for this barber, and he was a real good barber. Yeah. Wish I could have brought him back to the States, but anyhow, I used to trade. Well, you got rations issued to you, and you had a carton of cigarettes a week.
Yeah.
I would take my cigarettes, packs of cigarettes, go to the farmers and barter with them for eggs. Eggs were the priority.
Oh yeah.
And 1 egg for 1 pack of cigarettes. Sometimes you could talk them into 2 eggs for a pack of cigarettes, depending on what. But bring them back, make them best geared, and
Fresh egg.
no
was a real
Teflon,
commodity.
believe me, no Teflon. And we fry them up on our little stove in there.
Oh yeah, sure.
It was amusing.
So what did you do for, I know you didn't have a whole lot of time off, but what did you do when you did have some time off? Did you go into the villages or?
No, I never did. I was, my time off to occupy myself, I was an instructor in the rifle range. I mean, everybody.
More work.
Yeah. Everybody had to be checked in their proficiency in
Sure.
various weapons, be it rifle or pistol, whatever. So I had to go out. I would go out and reestablish their proficiency in it. I had one guy come in. He had a carbine, and he had a misfire. And, hey, what do I do? There's this kind of rifle with a misfire sitting in the chamber pointing at you. So the fun of things, it was amusing.
Joe, could you tell me just a little bit about your living conditions there in your base?
Oh, we had wonderful Sheraton Hotel combinations.
Okay.
It was called a squad tent. I have pictures of it in there if you want it. To make it more roomy, well, we took the skirts out and propped it up with wood. and there were 6 of us sleeping in there. Italy is cold, very cold. Mm-hmm. We had snow at times where we were at, and we had our stove in the center. It was made out of a 5-gallon oil can. Mm-hmm. And we had that in the center. We had our fuel coming in from the outside, which is a GI 5-gallon gas can. So I piping out of the ships, ran it down through there into our mess kit. Gasoline dripped into the mess kit, and we burned it. Well, for exhaust, we had flare cans, fuse cans off of bombs. We stacked them together and put them up through our chimney. Well, it'd get soot built up in there. Well, we got a little gas stay in there before we threw a match in it. Whoom! Blow the soot out.
How about your food?
Food? Do we really have to go into that?
Yeah, we do.
Let's put it this way. I came back, I weighed 119 pounds.
And what'd you weigh when you started?
I was 148.
Yeah.
And food wasn't that great, but of course, when you got up in the morning, you weren't really interested in...
Okay, what time do you get up when you're going on a mission?
Generally around 3.
3 in the morning.
Because you had to go out, get your gear, go out to the ship, check your ammunition, check your guns,
right.
Pre-flight your stuff. Mm-hmm. And you came out, pilots came out from their briefing, and we stood by the corner there, and they'd tell us where we're going. Well, one time they told us after we were in the ship, and they closed the doors and locked them on us. And what is this? Oh, we're going to Berlin, and you're not coming back. Because it was that far, with the bomb load we had, with 8,000 pounds, and we couldn't have made it back. We didn't have enough gas. So halfway through, we had to bail out. But thankfully, the flare went up, canceling the mission. But we did go later with a lighter bomb load. Now, the sighting window up there, the round window, was theoretically bulletproof. But like all theories, it doesn't work out so good. The thrill of riding in this turret is when you bring these guns down to get into it up in the ship, and you're up in the air, probably going to be about 10,000 feet, and you look out through that window and there's nothing but glass between you and that earth down there. So it's quite a thrill to get in here and do this. Now, to protect the propellers, they had, which isn't on the ship here, they had a metal skirt that just scalloped to meet the arc of the propellers. So when you're in combat and you're going around with a fighter, in the excitement, you don't get to shoot your own props. So that there's a firing circuit switch. You can see it on the other side here of it's a little pin that would push in when it hit the skirting and knock out your firing circuit. Now, in the case of the plane that had problems, you dumped everything you could. In this baby, you dumped it out by undoing the bolts up the top and got rid of her. But like I said, the Mickey was replaced. They dropped the ball turret out of these and put that radar unit into this place. But like I said again, that skirting was still here, and that radar would catch fire. And not so much the prop or anything else, but this skirting, like I said, that protected the arch of the propellers, that would cause it to go on fire. To bail out it, I never did want to bail out, because you're sitting in there, your back is, you got right about in here, and I always figured that I'd never make it out. I'd break my back getting out of there. I've heard of guys bailing out of them. I never had a chute in there. We had chest packs. Wear a chest pack in here, it's in the way, be in the way of your sighting and other actions that you have to take care of. 1 foot controlled the range of the fighter and consequently moved the indices in and out. the other foot was for the communications. And you got your oxygen indicator in there and everything all set here. You flew, like I said it once before, 64 degrees was about the coldest I ever hit. But we had electric suits. And like I said, the electric suits, especially across here, would short out. They catch on fire. You pull the plug and then try to beat it out. So you ended up flying without any heat at all in there. Our oxygen masks were heated, but they were pretty inefficient. They just barely kept the ice from forming in it. You'd have to squeeze it and break the ice loose, get rid of it that way. That's some of the fun you had while you were flying. Now this is your ammunition hatch, and it's got a baffle in there. And there's baffles set in there too. You had to lay your ammunition this way, back and forth, back and forth. You had 1,875 rounds in there, baby. You had to be kind of cautious. And you just couldn't just shoot and shoot and shoot, because there was no way of reloading. You'd have to get up in here, turn the turret, open this up, reestablish it. Excuse me. We did carry extra ammunition. When I was telling you, when we fought fighter bait, we had ammunition stacked up all boxes all along here. And we interlaced it so we didn't have to change it. I still only had that 1,800 rounds in there. Waist gunners had more, and the tail gunner had more ammunition.
One of the things that would strike me to be in the ball turret is you're by yourself. You're pretty lonely.
Yes.
You have communication with the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
That must be a pretty lonely feeling in there.
It is Lonesome George, that's about it. And like I say, you got that responsibility of protecting the whole bottom side of the ship. The Germans used to like to come up through a cloud cover and stall their plane out and just rake the bottom of the ship with fire. Because then they could just think they could wipe out everybody here. And hey, your job also was to keep them from coming. So you had a cloud cover down below, and you had to be very alert to the fact that something could pop up.
Sure.
You were busy, and we were still over enemy territory. But for some reason, my turret was malfunctioned, and I came up here, and I laid down here on the plywood walkway. And about that time, for some reason, one of the waist gunners dropped the flak helmet to me because we were going over a target with anti-aircraft guns. We were active, and I bent over and zoom, went right through where my head was. That was fun. I had flak cut some of my stuff down in the turret. I've got pieces of it. I think the other day when I was here, I brought the stuff in on that show thing. But yeah, I was telling you here, the race gunners had a basket fastened down here. And when we go over a tire, like I said, they had an armor plate, and these guys would get down in the basket. Okay.
Get a little protection that way.
Yeah, they had the armor plate down on the floor and stuff like that. It got so that it was kind of hard to get the ships off the ground, and the CO came through inspecting. What do you guys got all this? Well, we took the stuff out and put it away so we couldn't find it, and put it back in after we left. Like I said, it was, hey Joe, what does it look like out there? And I'd be real nice and say, oh, you could get out and walk on it. Oh, that made him feel great.
You had the best view of anybody in the airplane, didn't
I
you?
had all the view, the pilot and bombardier and navigator we had all the view. Like I said, I was responsible for making a bomb report. Sometimes I would take a camera in there, but it was too cumbersome really to have anything in there with you. But I was responsible for reporting where the bombs landed.
Joe, could you take just a few minutes to explain which model of the B-17 that you flew in? And
Certainly,
models?
yes. This is an innovation too. You're looking at the side of this thing. You're viewing the outside there. In some models, we flew E, F, and Gs. Gs being the latest, more sophisticated model. Some models of the E had insulation on this wall, sounding, and it made it a little more comfortable flying. But it was like on the E model, these windows were opposite of each other, and the waist gunners, when they're in combat, their butts would be hitting against each other trying to get by and follow a ship. And the sights of these are real sophisticated. All we had was the ring and post sights on flexible guns, because flexible gun really had not too much accuracy, and you just throwing out a bunch of lead out there as a curtain. Mm-hmm. Like I was telling you before earlier, that we had an incendiary round in there, theoretically, we see what you're shooting. Well, come on, that got out of that barrel, hit the slipstream, and off it went. So it was just a waste of ammunition, so we would replace it with a live round right away. This azimuth gear on the 17, the crank down, this is how you lowered it in. You pull the pin, of course you better hold on to the reel when you pull it, and you crank it down. Well, corresponding on the plane, on the turret, is a ring gear. And on this one I noticed, but they used to be bronze. And one day I got a flak hit one of the bronze gear out there, and it was impossible to retract the turret. So I had to land in it, which is strictly a no-no, because you got about 4 inches clearance on there. I got in there and I turned the guys to the front. I told them all, I said, "You guys ever bounce this thing out and never speak to you again?" Because sometimes the pilots weren't too great, and they would make a pretty good rough landing. But we got down to the end of the runway. I mean, they radioed in that they're coming in with somebody in the turret. Well, they thought, hey, I was wounded or something, I'm stuck in the turret. So they had ambulance, everything else, fired her, and got down. I'm bailing out of there, like I would have got in there if the plexiglass wasn't there. And, hey, I'm all right. Oh, incidentally, back when we were training in Lincoln, Nebraska, and Omaha and stuff, why you had 10 men put together. They'd never been together before. They never knew each other. And very seldom they might have known each other. And you had to knit as a crew. And personalities could get into a conflict. And so everything had to work. Now, everybody was part of a crew. Every man knew the other man's position. Mm-hmm. In fact, I had a 6'4" co-pilot that I got down in that turret. I had to stand on the door to get him in there, but I stood him.
You got in okay.
And I did bombing. I bombed a couple targets from work the actual did the bombing. But you had to know every job, because before you got to the target, somebody could have gotten injured, something happened to them, and somebody had to sit there. I mean, okay, the pilot could salvo it from up there on this cockpit, but you had no accuracy where the bombs were going then. And I remember one incident, tail gunner, brand new kid, came in from the States, and he was on his first mission. And he kept calling in, he says, "Got a fighter coming in, on 6 o'clock low." Well, I didn't see any fighter coming in. And he kept calling it in. Well, finally the pilot said, "Well, if you see the fighter, shoot it." So he shot down another B-17. I seen the day where we would go over target, hit your IP point. You start picking up anti-aircraft before then. I see the bombardier first mission open up that door up there and bail out. He was so scared. You ask what was memorable mission. You were scared missions. He bailed out. I don't want it. Out he went. Popped the chute, I imagine. I don't know whether he landed safely or not. But one thing about these things, they would go into a spin, and if you couldn't make it to that door within the first 360 degrees, you didn't make it, because you were pinned against the side, centrifugal force. The only thing you could pray for if you had that chute strapped on you in front here, that she broke apart and you went out flying out. Because centrifugal force, I mean, you went down with it.
Joe, you've told us an incredible amount of stuff today, and I really appreciate what you've been able to tell us.
I'm glad
And
you
I want
enjoyed
to
it,
thank you
Jeff.
for coming.
You're most welcome.
And I also want to thank you for serving our country. You know,
You're most welcome.
you did something really wonderful.
Well, it was
and
my
you were
country
part of a
too.
big team. I know.
Part of the country.
Thanks
too.
again.